Okay, welcome to this video. I'm going to be talking about Illaoi's character design and making an evaluation of whether I think it's good or not. Just to start off, because I know it might be an issue, I think my microphone is maybe a little bit loud. I've tried fixing it, but I've had experiences with the sound just not being as good as I would like it to be. So if you could just adjust the volume a little bit on the video, then that should be the easiest way to go about it, I think. Anyway, I just realized I haven't made a table of content. Obviously, I'm doing this like a video essay, so I thought through like all the design stuff, but I haven't really made like. I'm not going to edit the best video you're ever gonna see, right? Because like this is just a part-time hobby, and I gotta be honest, I don't have the time or energy to put that much into it if I don't know it'll make numbers, right? But regardless, let's begin. Right, so to start off, let's talk a bit about Illaoi's story and who she is, right? So Illaoi is described as an intense woman, and she's the most powerful truth bearer in 100 generations. A truth bearer being in the Buru, which is like her people and her religion. Sometimes these truth bearers are born, and the job of the truth bearer is to test souls. So she, Illaoi's E in the game. She pulls out your soul and she beats it up, and you have to sort of fight to survive, right? That's basically what she does to the what are they called? Like not the convicts, like the fucking followers of her religion, right? To test them and make sure that they are worthy of their god. Okay, so she's a priestess that's fully committed to the experience of living through her god of motion, Nagakeberos. She's devoted to Nagakeberos. She is the chosen one of her god, which is the truth bearer, right? That means that she's the chosen one. As the truth bearer, she has two missions, which is defeating undeath and testing the Buru souls, as I also previously mentioned. The special thing about Illaoi as a truth bearer is that she broke tradition and set the Bilgewater at the height of her power. We have to remember that she's basically the messiah of her religion. She is the biggest prophet figure kind of deal that they have ever had, or well, at least in 100 generations. And so the fact that she then breaks from tradition, which is very like a very Buru. It's a very important thing to the Buru people is their tradition, right? That's a very, very important part of her character. Bilgewater are the only groups of islands where the Buru people have allowed foreigners to stay. Illaoi decided to engage with them and defend them from the harrowing. The Buru are big-time elitists, and Illaoi is expanding the Buru inside of Bilgewater and have decided to test the normal people of Bilgewater. So basically, her goal as the Messiah is to spread the message of her god. That is why she was chosen by Nagakeberos or whatever, right? So how does her design tell her story? And just to make sure that we have an accurate picture of what we need to be able to understand from Illaoi. We need to be able to recognize her as a priestess. We need to be able to recognize her as a warrior. And those are basically the main 2 points. Obviously, there are more things. There are specific things like her jobs are to test people, and her second job as the truth bearer is to defeat undeath. And being a truth bearer means that she is the chosen one, so there are a few more things than we need, or rather that we need. But the most important thing to start off is to understand does she actually look like someone who is a warrior and someone who is a priestess? So, an intense woman. This is the first thing. And why is it important for her to be an intense woman? That's important because she has to fight on death, literally fight, right? She has to protect her people, and she has to be able, the fact, like, she is breaking tradition. So she must break the tradition of what a regular priest or priestess looks like and who they are. And it is not a normal occurrence for priestesses or priests to be intense in the way Illaoi is. So that's a really important thing for her character to be. Now, how does she display that? I've written a few points. I'll just go through them pretty quickly, and if there's any more to say about them, then I'll go dive deeper into it. So first of all, her facial expression, right? The eyebrow lifted, kind of like, I don't want to say The Rock, but it's a little bit like what is that motion called? I don't remember, but like no bitches kind of look. Her eyes are glowing, which is very important because that's a very distinct feature that makes her like, it makes her expression pop, and be very like aggressive. Also because like the eyes are just generally very important for sort of design pieces. Her voice, now I'm not going to be able to play the voice for you guys right now, but we all know what she sounds like, and she also speaks in a very sort of, I don't know if commanding is necessarily the right word, but she is sort of masculine in some of the ways that she's very convincing, and she's very charismatic, and she believes in her own words, which is very important, right? I don't know if masculine is necessarily the right word, although she is a masculine woman, right? The pose and the camera angle of the splash shot. So that's another important thing I just want to mention real quick. I'm mostly going to be going off of her original splash shot from League of Legends, because in that splash shot, most of the design considerations have actually sort of, all of the stuff pretty much has a purpose. And it feels like in some of the newer iterations, she's lost some of her purpose for why she looks like she does. And it's like it's very small things. It could literally be the texture of fabric on her. But in some of her most recent art, she has lost those things, or it has changed, which I believe actually weakens her design a little bit. So I'll mainly be going off of her base splash shot, right? So for the pose and the camera angle, first of all, we are looking up at Illaoi, and she's also standing with her foot on top of the idol. And that depicts like, the idol is supposed to be this very, very religious thing that is basically intended to be the manifestation of her god, right? Yet she is treating it like a stool, really. She's stepping on top of it, which is very interesting. We can also see that the idol itself is kind of old, and it is damaged and stuff like that. I'll get more into the idol later. But she's not necessarily treating it like it is a prestigious piece of religious imagery or whatever. And that definitely also breaks with tradition, and also cements her as a very intense woman. Because she is, in some ways, I don't want to say above her god, but in some ways, because she is committing to the act of living, she gets to treat the idol like it is less in some ways. She has muscles, and she has some very rough clothing, and that just means that she's strong. Like she's intense because she's strong and because she has clothing that could very well be like something you'd fight in. It's not something that needs to. It's not some kind of robe that's ceremonial or needs to be hidden away or protected or cleaned and all that stuff. She just walks around wearing a normal clothes, and if she gets into a beatdown, she'll probably crush some skulls and then just be happy about it. And I'd go, I don't know, like she probably wouldn't even swap her clothes, right? So definitely support that idea, and her tattoos as well. This entire, like the idea of the muscles, the clothing, and the tattoos together sort of paints this picture of a very, what's the right word here? It's those like masculine features, right? She's someone who gets into fights. That's sort of like the type of people that generally, if you think about someone who has muscles, who has rough clothing, and who has tattoos, then that's who you think of, right? And there are certain reasons for that. So definitely supports the idea of an intense woman. What about a warrior? Once again, rough and physical clothing. Specifically her leather chest piece and the pieces of leather on her thighs sort of mimic armor. And she's also wearing a metal bracer on her left hand. Yeah, on the left one. And like some kind of stone one on the right one, right? The left piece is specifically some kind of buru armor. And it generally works well together also with the previous mentions of like her muscles and all that, to sort of depict her as more of a, I don't want to use the term tank, but she is more of like, she's a really tough nut to crack. Like she's definitely extremely strong and can withstand a lot. And the idol, because of the rest of her design, the idol fits well into the depiction as a weapon, and it also sort of, it takes that role upon itself by extension of her own design, right? As a priestess, can we then see? So we are. She's an intense woman, definitely, and she's a warrior. Those two go hand in hand. But is it possible for us to view her as a priestess? So how is that done, right? First of all, there's a hairstyle. I kind of wish I had better image. We'll get to that later. Actually, fuck it. I'll I'll rush through the rest of this presentation just to find the image. Wait, fuck. Okay, that's too far. What? God damn it. Okay, that's what I wanted to get to, okay? That's what I wanted to get to. So Illaoi has shaved the sides of her head, which is like typically religion, right? To shave your head. Specifically, it's like the monks do it, priestesses, or rather priests do it, in multiple religions, both in the East and in the West. And I assume it's just generally something that you do in pretty much every religion. It seems to be a very popular way of depicting that, at least, and especially also like from, yeah, I don't really know what else to say. You know, religious organization, or rather religions, tend to like to shave their heads. And it of course has to do something with devotion, because normally I don't know. Okay, I want to be a little bit careful because obviously religion is kind of a touchy subject, but I think it has something to do with the fact that you want to make sure that something that grows wild, or rather wildly, you sort of maintain it and keep it under taps, to prove your devotion to your god, and also that it's something that most people would like to have hair, right? So it's something, the fact that you cut it off, especially as a woman, sort of paints the image that you are restricting yourself for the sake of your religion. So I really like that about Illaoi. And you might say, well, she still has hair, and yeah, that's the great thing about her, because Nagakeiboros is a god of motion, of movement. Nagakeiboros wants you to move on in life. That's the entire idea. That's Illaoi's main goal. That's the message she wants to spread. She wants you to move on. And so her hair actually, it grows out into this really, really wild mane with curls and all sorts of like flowy shapes that mimic like waves, which depict perfectly what it is that she's. It depicts her role within the religion perfectly. So she's a monk, thus it's shaved, and because her god is a god of motion and god of life, she also lets it flow freely, right? So it's an amazing like connection between those two things, and I think it's really well done. So going back, we get the glowing eyes thing is usually, or rather, it's like a depiction of power. So that fits really well into like priestess stuff because it's a higher power. She's wearing a golden ruff, which is obviously a very, I think, I don't know how many religions have it, but specifically it's a Western thing, where priests wear ruffs. A Christian thing, I think. Probably some other ones that do too. She also adopts a role of the chosen one because of her eyes and because of her general, the things we've already discussed, like her intensity and all that. But specifically, the eyes help to show us the chosen one. And then the other thing that helps show us the chosen one is, well, there are two other things. So her idol, which is her god, which we can also see it's intended to show us that there's some godlike power in it. She has control over it in some way, which means that she has some kind of important role. And then the other thing that we can see on the splash art is that the sun is mimicking a halo behind Illaoi's head. And the clouds, which first of all depict like the godlike powers of Nagakeiboros because of the tentacle, like the clouds are shaped like tentacles that sort of reach towards Illaoi and the sun. But the other thing is that the room between the tentacles paint the image of the sun's rays coming into view, which is a very, very beautiful but also like religious imagery. And it works really, really, really well for her. Obviously, that's not something you can like. That's not something you can include in game, but I think it's really nice in this splash art. So for her battle against the undead, we can attack 2 points, or rather, there are 2 signifiers that she sort of battles the undead, which is her role as a priestess and the role of her idol as sort of being the repellent of evil, right? That's the way she's holding it up on her Legends of Runeterra art. And that's in general how religious... I've been looking for this word like this entire time. I can't fucking find it. It's like the religious object. That's gonna have to be the substitution. So it's like a religious object that repels evil, right? That's the role of it. Other than that, I don't really get the sense of something specific that is anti-Shadow Wilds, because the dead in League of Legends tend to be Shadow Isles. There are other cases like Pike or Scion, but the Shadow Isles are definitely where you'd get most of that. And so I would have liked maybe that there was some kind of contrast to the Shadow Isles, some kind of opposite color. But I do also think that it is borderline really, really difficult. It's really difficult to do without also intruding on the Sentinels of Light color scheme. And for that reason, I think the fact that she is a priestess is enough. It's enough because you don't want to oversaturate her with all kinds of stuff. But it is something to at least consider. Something else I just noticed, actually. The parts of her head that are shaved sort of make room for more tattoos, which is also really cool. So that's a great way to also use the space that the shave part of her head creates. All right. A messenger of God and the tradition versus modernity. So when you want to depict someone who's a messenger of anything, you want to highlight their means of communication. Obviously, in this case, as I have written, it is to spread religion, right? And so what does Illaoi use to spread her religion and test people, right? That's the way she spreads it. She tests people. It's not her mouth, it's the mouth of her idol. And so or rather the mouth of her god, right? So when she carries this idol around that tests people, the way that she spreads her religion is through the mouth of that idol, which is really, really good design. And in terms of tradition versus modernity, she has a very nice mixture of Buru and Bilgewater clothing to mimic the fact that she is not fully, like, she's not elitist in the same way that the other Buru followers are, right? We can see that her bracer, now you can't see it on this art piece, but her bracer and her ruff and some of the leather clothing is very Buru aesthetic wise, and some of the other robes and her pants and her boots and the belt is very much Bilgewater aesthetics, right? I think I wanted to say something else about the highlight of communication and all that. So I'll just see if I can find it in my brain. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, there's an argument to empower Illaoi's own voice, but I think it works a lot better that it's the idol. I think that's great. But other than that, I think we just go to the next slide, which is the bad stuff. Yes, I might be the only person in the entire world who is going to make a video about an Illaoi character design and then straight up actually attack her at some point. Well, okay, maybe I won't be the only one, but I might be the only one that is... Actually, I won't say those things. It's fine. It's nothing controversial. It's just I don't want to say I'm the only one, because I don't know, there could be like other people out there who've done the same thing. But as for the bad stuff, so I have written the tattoo style and the design of the idol. And to start off with the tattoos, right? So Illaoi's god is a god of motion. And specifically, one of the depictions or one of the words and concepts associated with Nagakeboros is infinity. It's like the unending will and movement and all that stuff. So what really bothers me about Illaoi's tattoos are that they are not infinite or unending, and they aren't interconnected, they aren't moving. They are very rigid and very blocky, and the blocky style works really well for the Buru's aesthetic. That is what the Buru is, right? From an aesthetic standpoint. But I don't think it works well when you think about what the god is, because you could keep the same aesthetic, but then create these shapes and these kind of tattoo. Yeah, yes, you could just create the tattoos that would sort of snake their way around her arms in an infinite manner. And you could even, I know that this is probably, it's way too much on like some technological perspectives for it being a video game, and especially the way that League is. But you could have the tattoos literally moving. Like, so if you saw Illaoi in action, you'd have these infinite tattoos on her arms that would move infinitely in motion. I think that would fit a lot better. And I'm actually really sad that's not the case, because I think it's kind of like the obvious place to go with that. And it honestly it really fucks with me quite a lot, actually. That's not what she is currently. The other thing is the design of the idol. So I talked about how it's really good that the idol has like this big mouth so that it can spread the voice of God, which that's absolutely perfect. However, and this is the thing, right? You can already maybe make it out by the pictures I have up on the screen. So the idol is supposed to be the voice of God. So it's the mouth of her god, and her god is Nagakeboros, and the depiction of Nagakeboros in Bilgewater, none of it looks like that. None of it. Why is it that we have these golden kraken coins which depict what the Bilgewater citizens think Nagakeboros looks like? Like the entire society thinks that's what the fucking Nagakeboros looks like. These are the depictions of what the Buru people think it looks like. So why is it that the idol looks like this? It makes no sense. Like, one thing is that we know that Nagakeboros is sort of incomprehensible. Like, it's not any of the things that we are being shown. Nagakeboros doesn't look like the sea monster. It doesn't look like the idol. It doesn't actually look like this piece of paper or the kraken coin or whatever. It's maybe not even a kraken, really. That's just sort of the monster that's being used to depict the god. But the idol must have been originally made by someone who's not Nagakeboros then. Because Nagakeboros would have either gifted it, or it would have been made and then somehow Nagakeboros inhabits it. But why would this be the depiction? Because the idol has to be really old, right? So if it's really old, that means that people thought that Nagakeboros looked different once, and then they changed their thoughts about how it looks. or she looks. And then the other thing is, if they were the, why would, okay, so let's say that Illaoi received the idol recently, and like all of the rest of Bilgewater got this idea of what the fuck Nakaki Boros is before that. Then how does that make any sense? Because the coins from Bilgewater depict their depiction of Nakaki Boros. So it wouldn't make sense that they first began to know about her when Illaoi arrived with her supposed new idol, because then they would likely change the society's like depictions of her. The point is, there are too many questions to why it looks the way that it does, and it doesn't really make much sense. And that, I gotta be completely real, that bothers me like a lot. I do like the brew aesthetic of the idol itself. Obviously, that's really good. But these two, that like the tattoo style, or not the style, but the tattoos themselves and the design of the idol, I just can't really get over it. I really don't think that works, because it's not like it's not possible to make it look like the Kraken. It already has these like fins or gills at the side or whatever they are supposed to be. You could easily have made those like tentacles, given the mouth, and then included like the eyes and the fucking whatever the hell this fin is on top, right? You could have easily done that. So it's so annoying to me that Illaoi, who is so close to being freaking perfect, falls short on. Oh God, my voice is cracking. Jesus Christ. Yeah, but it annoys me that she's so close to being perfect, and then she fucks this up of all the things. So I'm really sad about that. Something else I wanted to mention that I just remembered about the communication, and highlighted whatever the fuck mouth, right? So the idol is supposed to spread the message to the people of Bilgewater. So the mouth of the idol, in theory, should not have the aesthetics of the brew. And you might say, how the fuck do you do that? Because you can't just be like, well, it needs to be a brew artifact, and then you just, I don't know, would you like create a leather rim on it to depict that it's built, like spreading its voice to the people of Bilgewater? How would you do that? And that's a good question. I don't necessarily have the answer, but that is something I think that's an important thing to think about, because that's what her character does. It's what she's supposed to do. Spread the message to the people of Bilgewater, and the people of Bilgewater would rather listen to something that they recognize than they would listen to something that is Buru specifically. And it's not like that's necessary. Maybe like in universe, sure, there are people that would listen to something that looks like that, but the point is, from a design standpoint, right? Generally speaking, people would rather listen to something that they can recognize. The thoughts that I've had is that you either do something about the lips or do something with the tongue, or the teeth possibly. So what you do, okay, actually, this is starting to make some sense, I think, if you try to go that direction. So you make sure that the idol, to make Illaoi better, you make sure the idol depicts Nakake Boros, and then on top of Nakake Boros, you implant like a sea monster jaw, like skull jaw, and then wrap it in some leather or some stuff like that, because that way you have something that is very close to what Bilgewater does. Bilgewater is a lot about, like, you know, they have a bunch of fishermen that especially chase sea monsters, So it would hit home with them, like it would sort of relate to them. Like this god is speaking to the people of Bilgewater, right? So I think the idol is a miss, because it is too simplistic. That said, I think Illaoi is fucking awesome. If you were to ever scour the internet or anything at all for any character that sort of like looks like Illaoi, I don't think you'd get very far. Because Illaoi is extremely unique. She's supposed to be a battle priestess or a warrior priestess. And if you ever were to search for a warrior priestess anywhere else, you'd almost definitely get some kind of World of Warcraft paladin woman. And not only that, but for the time when Illaoi was released, she was a middle-aged, buff, black woman who is religious and avoids all of the stereotypes about black women and religion, right? She's such a cool fucking character. She's so cool. I love her so much. She's so awesome. Nowadays we've gotten Ambessa, which has somehow managed to go even harder on the concepts that Illaoi tried to like go with, because Ambessa, like, sure, both of them are buff and both of them are, well, black women, but Ambessa's even older, so that's also just really cool. But I really do adore Illaoi for what she is. If I were to rate Illaoi, and this is probably the most controversial thing, because I feel like 99% of people would put her in S tier, at least of the people that, you know, care about character design. And spoiler alert, now that I've mentioned S tier, you know that I'm not gonna do that. I think if I were to give her grade, actually, you know what? I'll just say it now, but in the future, I'll probably avoid giving grades to champions, and then just make that into like some kind of video way down the line, right? So character design, tier list, or whatever. But I would give her like an A tier, I think. I think the misses of the idol, even though it is cool, I can't deny that it definitely is cool. I still think that the idol is missing a little bit too much. And I do think that the tattoos could have been better. And if those two elements were there, then I think Illaoi would have been pitch perfect. Yeah. And like, you could still make an argument for S tier if you wanted to, but I feel like S tier is a thing that's used a little bit too much, and it's a little bit too oversaturated, so I'd rather not put her into S. Alright, that's it for my evaluation of Illaoi. I think that she's a really good design that manages to correctly depict a lot of what she's supposed to be. And I think that the things that she do miss are not detrimental to the character at all. I hope you liked the video, and do let me know which champion I should tackle next time. And yeah, then that's gonna be it for me. See you guys.